I have Ken Bechtel in the house. Hey, Ken, good to have you here. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk to you. I'm reading his best-selling book right now, Follow Your Yes, and I am eating it up. Oh my God, so many golden nuggets. I can't wait to share. But let me tell you about Ken before we dive right in. He's an author, he's a speaker, he's a mentor, and like I said, he authored a best-selling book called Follow Your Yes, where he provides you with simple guidance on how to build confidence and eliminate overwhelm across the full spectrum of life. Yeah, we need that. I'm going to say yes to that. We need that. And Ken is here to share with you the wisdom gained from more than 20 years as a spiritual teacher and relationship coach about what it takes to make room for you to thrive in this busy world and busy online world and busy dating world. Thank you for carving out some time in your full life.
Oh, absolutely. Totally excited to be here, Jenny.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I bring on different people, different topics, and different components that I think are necessary for women to be able to thrive in the second half of life. And so often people are looking at all the things they don't want, and they're limiting themselves, and they're jumping through lots of other people's hoops. And that is just costing them greatly. And they're not attracting the people that they so want to attract. And that's what we're going to dive into today, because your book is like gold. Sister, this is gold. And we're going to start off by, I want to read what in your book is your definition. Your yes is the emotional, visceral, attention-grabbing device that provides direction regarding what will help you shine and blossom in your unique way, so we can share our distinctive expressions of the divine with those in our orbit. I felt like Oprah just there, just like, oh. So how on earth did you come across this yes piece? And what is following your yes about? How is it different than what most people are doing as they're pursuing a loving relationship? Share with us.
Yeah, that's a great question, Junie, because most of the time, and it's what we've been taught, it's what we've got through our culture and our training, is we're so focused on forms. We're focused on, what does that person look like? Where do they live? What do they do? How do they dress? All these kinds of things. And I mean, that's the proverbial checklist, right? Oh, they got to check all these boxes. But just as you referenced, there is that description of what a yes is. There was nothing in there about forms. It's about feelings.
Visceral.
How do you feel with that person?
Yeah.
And if you think about, like, a great example is when we talk about someplace that, oh, it's just like home to me. It's a feeling. It's not the things that are there. It's not the accessories in the room. It's, oh, this place just feels like home. And that's what that ideal person is, right? Mr. Right is a feeling. He's not a form. And the more you can tune into what are the feelings that you're looking for, then you can actually recognize them when you see them, irregardless of what form they take. But most of us truncate that and don't get a chance because we're so caught up in the forms. We just, nope, they're not going to work. And we never even open ourselves up to, but I actually had fun.
What a concept. It's like, wait a second, I actually had fun and enjoyed being with him, but and people are missing out.
Yeah, we're cutting ourselves off.
Yeah. As you're sharing that, I can't help but think that sounds more like, well, look, I know women do that too. Women have their checklists of, they need to be financially stable, they need to be emotionally mature, all those things. Yes. And when you're talking about form, I can't help but think that so many men have that more than women. And maybe I'm just, bullshitting myself right here, but yes, I've heard women say, I like to have a tallish man, I like to have a fittish man, but I'm hearing more women saying, I'm looking for substance, I'm looking for depth. And yet maybe it's a lot of yabber instead of really following that gut instinct of what their yes is. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, my experience is like those things, right? You're making those expressions, but you're measuring them in forms.
Yeah, that makes sense. That totally
Substance
makes
means
sense.
he does this. Substance means he has this relationship with his family or his parents or whatever.
Yeah.
It's still not about feeling. Like if I asked you, what does substance mean? What does it feel like?
Mm,
You probably wouldn't know
yeah,
because you haven't
exactly.
associated like actually well, because whatever that means to you, substance, the truth is, the question is, what does it provide for you? Because what it provides is a feeling.
Yes.
You're expecting a certain feeling with somebody that has substance to them, or they're stable. Well, that's great. That's about them. What about you? Why is stability important? And that's
Yes.
the feelings that we're looking for, because we get caught up in, oh, stability means he's got a good career and he has a, good investments and he owns his home. And that's what stability means. But all those things are ephemeral. They can go away anytime.
Yeah.
So it's like, but what's the feeling?
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. So your yes is a feeling. And
Mm,
it's literally, this is how the divine communicates with us. So the divine communicates in feelings. That's its language. It's not thoughts or ideas or context or, different concepts. It's the feelings. And those aren't in our head. You
yeah.
don't feel anything in your head except for fear.
Yeah. I was just going to say, except for fear that's having us run those programs.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The only thing that's up there is fear. It's your heart. So you have to tune into your heart.
Mm,
And we're so afraid of that
yeah.
because we think, oh, that makes me vulnerable. You being aware of your feelings makes you vulnerable? No, it actually allows you to go in the direction of what feels like that, what supports those feelings. And that's what following your yes does. It allows you to actually go, hey, what is it that's going to support me in being my best? And then being able to ask for that, express that, but being open to the possibilities, because this is the fun thing about the divine. The divine has way more things available to us than we can ever comprehend.
Yeah.
So if we decide we already know what form it's supposed to take, we just incredibly limited the universe from providing what we want. And you'll be surrounded by it. This is why you hear people, maybe some of you listening have done this. How come I never noticed you before? Why? Because you had decided it had to look like X, Y, or Z, and he was an L, and you didn't notice it.
Yeah.
Even though it was the feeling that you wanted. I had a woman I was working with, and this was actually long before COVID, but she did a lot of work from home. She was a consultant, and she would also go to this local cafe. And she told me she started dating this guy, and they were talking, and they were like, oh, I go to that cafe all the time. They're like, no, you don't. I'm there like 3 times a week. I'm there like 5 times a week. How have we never seen each other?
Yeah.
And they were so convinced this couldn't be accurate that they went to the cafe and they asked the barista, is he here? Oh, yeah, he's here. You guys don't know each other? Like the barista was stunned.
Yeah.
They were in the same room day after day and never noticed each other. And who knows, maybe she thought, oh, some guy that's working out of a coffee shop isn't very stable.
He's living at home and needs to go to a coffee, whatever.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
were
exactly.
missing what they were really looking for.
Right. Right in
And this is
front
what
of
we do
them.
all the time.
Yeah. And women have been hurt. Women have had, experienced betrayal, loss. And so they're on the lookout to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Yeah.
And, and it's one of those things that, same for me when I'm working with my clients, I tell them we're going to work on getting you some new glasses because right now they're clouded with
Mhm.
your head trying to manipulate the scenario and jumping through all these people's hoops. And one of the stories that was in your book, and I loved this story, was a woman who just loved books. And then she realized, and I don't know exactly, I might mess it up a little bit, but she realized at one point after talking with you that suddenly she was just focused on books for her kids. Everything became about her kids and she forgot about herself.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, where do you meet people? You know, who are you? Who are you? What makes you happy? What is your yes? And so she started, you know, following that yes of I love books. And there she is in a library and she bumps into some guy and the rest is history. So
Yeah.
when we follow that authentic yes in our being, the universe is like our guidance system to
Yes.
provide. I mean, that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, and it's certainly what I believe as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a great example, right? So this woman knew that one of her passions was books. She loved books, but she dismissed it because she thought, well, as a mom, I need to do it for the kids.
Yep.
And she would never let herself go get a book for herself. She even felt guilty. She goes, I would be like, I have some time. Should I go to the library? I can't. That's not a good mom.
Oof. Yeah.
And so all her needs went in the back seat. And then when we were working together, it's not long after her divorce. And the irony was our class was literally across the street from the local library. So she had parked at the library. And then she tells me this story. So she goes out of the event and goes over to the library and all this transpires. And her comment was, I was so worried about what I needed to do to find somebody. I just needed to be me.
I got goosebumps. What a concept. I just needed to be me. Take a breath into that, sister. You just need to be you, because it takes so much energy to be other people. And and who are you going to attract? Yeah.
More accurately, Junie, it takes so much energy to not be yourself.
Totally. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm always saying is I better not be like this. I better not be like this. I better not be like this. How exhausting. And so we're jumping through all these hoops, and who are people seeing but this mishmash of a tug of war inside of you?
Yeah.
How on earth are you going to shine your unique self?
Yep.
For someone to actually go, ooh, there's someone I want to meet. I like her shine. I like her expression.
Yep. Yeah, I use the analogy of it's like if you think of yourself as the program manager at a radio station, and their job is deciding what music to play, right? So they pick a genre. It's country, it's classical, it's jazz, it's whatever it is. Now, they don't sit there and try and guess who's listening and then play what they think they'll like. But that's what most people are doing in the dating world.
Yeah, yeah.
Instead, they play their music, let's say it's jazz, and people tune through the dial. And the ones that like it go, cool, my new favorite. Other ones go, I hate jazz, and they move on. But they just keep playing their music as loud as they can and letting whoever resonates tune in. And there are going to be more people that don't like your station than do.
And that saves a lot of time because if your profile is, I think they're going to want me to say this and look like this and act like this, that door is going to be open to a lot of people that are not going to be a fit. And so by following your yes, by being your unique self, you are going to draw people that really are going to be a fit, that are going to love your music. Yeah, love your tune. And you're going to repel the people that are not going to be digging on your music. And you even use that in analogy in your book about a magnet. Right? We want to repel those that are not going to be a good fit, right?
Yeah, exactly. And part of the reason why it's so easy to get caught in this trap of trying to do what you think the other person wants is we believe there's a limited option out there.
Yes.
And especially as we get further along in life, oh, I've had these experiences, and we get so focused on what we don't want that we forget to even look for what we do want. And what happens is there's actually a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. And its job is to filter out all the distractions from whatever you're focused on and bring whatever you're focused on to the forefront. So if you're focused on what you don't want, it will show you all those things so you can avoid them, which means you're going to start thinking your whole world is full of those things.
Exactly.
I worked with a woman who, this is a perfect example. She was 53 years old. She'd already raised a family. She said, Ken, I don't want to raise another family, so I'm not looking for somebody who has, kids that are younger. And she goes, every guy I meet has younger children. She goes, but the weirdest thing is, she goes, all my girlfriends who I go out with swear they never meet a guy who's got younger kids. How can this be? Because you're looking for men with younger kids so you can avoid them.
It's
You're
so
not looking for
true.
what you do want. Think about 100% of that. I don't want this.
Yeah. And that's what you're looking
People
for.
even put it in their profiles, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, well, that's nice.
Yep.
But your profile isn't about what you want. It's about who you are.
Yeah.
It's your advertisement of you. It's not an order you're placing. So none of that belongs in there. They will know if they match, but they got to know who you are. So they go, wow, that's incredible. I had a woman I worked with who I happened to know before we worked together on her profile. And she sends me her profile. And Judy, I didn't know it was her. And I know her. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is it? Like,
Wow.
where's the cool stuff?
Yeah.
What do
Where's
you
your
mean?
essence?
Yeah. And she does all kinds of, she's an amazing artist. She started glass blowing. I mean, like crazy, amazing things that are interesting. And she goes, oh, I thought those would be too weird. And I said, well, how's your profile working? She goes, terribly. So we looked at the analytics in a year, or it wasn't even a year, it was about 8 months that she'd had this up. She'd had 12,000 men that had actually looked at her profile. Less than 100 had ever contacted her.
Yeah.
Because there was no reason to. She looked like everybody else on the whole dating site.
Yeah.
And she did to me too. I didn't even know it was her.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. When I help my clients with their profile, I always say, be you, because you really want to be discerning of who, well, not discerning, well, you do want to be discerning, but what you're representing, what you're putting out there is your store sign. And in my profile, which I will be opening up soon, doors will be opening soon in a theater near you. My first line has been, I howl at the moon and see vulnerability as a strength. And then, blah, 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 I'll probably be tweaking it. But bottom line is, people, when I was sharing that years ago, they're like, oh, but you're going to turn so many people off. You're going to sound like a real flake. You howl at the moon and see vulnerability as a strength. You're going to freak them out. I'm like, the people that I freak out are not going to get me. Because I literally do howl at the moon. And if I'm going to embarrass them or freak them out, I mean, obviously, there's the middle ground, but seriously, it's representing our truth. And if we're not in alignment, and I love what you said about, I don't want, and that's everything you see. It makes dating so challenging. This is so good. I love this. So muscle, it's a weak muscle. We've been taught to protect ourselves. We've been taught to be mindful, and granted, we are built to survive, not to necessarily have pleasure. We want pleasure. We want to have a delicious relationship and connection. We want to connect to the divine, but there's a lot of crap in the way. At least that's how I see it. We've absorbed a lot of these beliefs, like there aren't any good men out there, or I need to have this to be safe, or whatever it is. And that's, like you said, all in our head and fear. And you're talking about something so powerful about connecting to the divine, opening up and listening deeply so that you're out of overwhelm, not in competition. I would love for you to talk about why this is and how to get out of that loop. Give the sisters some tools on how to break that cycle.
Yeah, one of the biggest things, and I share this in the book, is we've got to eliminate maybes from our lives.
Yeah.
Because maybes are this giant energy suck. And they don't do anything for you, except keep this thing kind of nagging at you over here, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny because people are like, well, what if, and I had somebody ask me this just the other day, they're like, what if I need more time to think about it? I'm like, great, then right now it's a no. Because that's all you care about is right now.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen in the future. All that stuff keeps changing. So all we go is, oh, is this a now? A yes or a no right now? That's it. And then you can either go, it's a no, it doesn't deserve any more of my attention and energy. I can focus entirely on my yes, or I get sucked up in all these maybes and I miss being present for my yes, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
So your yes isn't like this global life purpose kind of thing. It's what do you need right here in this moment to be the best you can be with what you have. That's as simple as it can be. And so you're just checking in. Oh, somebody goes, hey, do you want to go to this party this weekend? And you're like, I don't know yet. And
Maybe.
if you need an answer now, my answer is no.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you give me space and I can get back to you, I will. But then you leave it. You don't sit there and go, oh, I'm going to have to think about it and worry about it. And how do I answer them? Because the chances are, if you took, and here's what I want you all to do. Make a list today of things that are in your maybe category, whatever they are. You probably have quite a few where you never really quite made a decision on it. And then just decide maybe is no longer an option. It's been eliminated from your world. There are no more maybes. They're either a yes or a no. And start going down your list and move them out of the maybe column into a no or a yes. And I will guarantee you every single one of them is a no. And here's
Wow.
why. Because if it's a yes, it would never have gotten in the maybe category.
Right.
It's
Take
okay
that in,
if
man. That's
something-
great.
If it's not a yes, that's fine. That doesn't mean it's bad or, you can never come around to it again. That's our fear. That's why we sit there, and maybes are literally where we're taking no's and trying to force them into being yeses because we're afraid they won't come back.
Yeah.
Well, think about dating. Perfect example. This guy asked me out. I'm not really that interested, but maybe I should go out with him anyhow because I'm afraid, what if he moves on? Well, would that be good?
Yeah. And
It
then
needs to be right for both of you. And if it's not right for
Exactly.
you, then it's not right for either of you.
Exactly. And I remember that when I was married, my therapist at the time said, if it's not working for you and you're unhappy, it's not working for him on some level either, because it's not a full yes. And energetically, spiritually, whatever you want to call it. I so agree with you. And I hear this often. Well, maybe he'll show up for me. Maybe, he's going to change. Maybe he'll want me so much that rah, 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 rah. And years go by and it's like, I was dating a potential. And so, yeah. So maybe we should go to our yeses and our nos. That's, I think, the only good maybe is yes, go to your yes, not sure, and your no's, and get out of the gray. Get out of the gray.
And exactly what you just said. Maybe there'll be this, maybe this will change. That's what I call maybe land. It's where maybe land tells you that your needs aren't being met.
Yes.
But it's not the other person's fault. It's yours because you're not owning what your needs are.
Bullseye. And I want to stay right there because that's a big piece of it. Is people have a hard time really owning their yes and taking responsibility for the fact that something is important to them. And if they can't own that something's important to them, how on earth are they going to reveal it? And that's where maybe land starts to come in, because it's like, well, do I really deserve that? Do I even know what's important to me? And so I'm always saying to my clients, we need to make sure we get really clear about what is your values, what is most important. Because if you don't know, how on earth are you going to be able to reveal that and share that? Because then you're in, well, maybe I want that, but maybe I don't. Maybe it'll work out or maybe it won't.
Exactly. And it's even another layer, right? So knowing what your values are obviously essential, but then you have to express them.
Yes.
And there's this thing that happens, and I talk about this in the book as well, that I call obvious isn't obvious. We assume that, oh, my values are obvious. Why do I have to speak to them?
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we're not getting the responses that we would think if they understood our values. Well, then chances are they don't. And the thing about something that we think is obvious, the other thing is if we have a revelation, somehow we always think we're the last one to figure it out. So everybody else must already know. So why would I don't want to tell them I just figured it out now.
Don't want to look like that person.
Yeah. So what happens is there's only two possible outcomes from stating the obvious, and they're both good. So you've got one is you state something you thought was obvious. I say, hey, Junie, did you know this? And you're like, no, thanks for telling me. Cool. Now we just found out that now they do know that thing that we thought was obvious.
Yeah.
Or I tell you, and you go, yeah, I knew that. Awesome. Now we're guaranteed that we know we're on the same page. They're both a victory. There's nothing to be afraid of in stating the obvious. But that's what we do. Oh, it should be obvious. Everybody wants that. No, they don't. There's a great quote from Eleanor Roosevelt where she said, do what's in your heart. Somebody's not going to like it anyhow. And that's the thing. We're so afraid it will disrupt somebody. It will. Everything you've ever done in your life has had somebody who didn't like it. Lots of somebodies. So stop waiting for the thing that is going to be the perfect thing that nobody gets bothered by.
Yeah.
Because that's literally nothing. It's being nothing. It's not showing up. If you become totally neutral, you're just vanilla. Yeah, you don't disrupt anybody. But
And what's going to happen to your life?
Yeah, you become invisible.
Yeah. I remember one of my mentors, similar to the Roosevelt quote, if everybody's loving you, you're kissing way too much ass, you know? And that comes back to being your authentic self. And when you can really know who you are and it can express yourself without fear of judgment, fear of it going south because you're revealing your truth, you know, that's a game changer. And yet people are still in their heads. People are still really scared. So can you help this sister with maybe one tip on how to move her closer to honoring her yes, to build that muscle? Because we have that big muscle in the head of going, but, you know, and I want to live in the grave because I don't want the shit to hit the fan. But I really want to be authentic and real and shine my light.
Yeah. So there's two pieces to this. So the first one is an exercise I have everybody I work with do, which is really, really simple. We can do it right now. So when you catch yourself spinning around in your head, and for me personally, I'm like literally looking up as if I could look into my head and find an answer. And then I'm like, oh, well, that's not helpful. I need to figure out, because your heart is the what and the why. That's the guidance that your heart gives you. Your head is the how. It's how to execute. But if you don't know what or why you're executing something, you're going to just spin around. You don't know what to choose. So you start with your heart. So what you do when you catch yourself in your head is you stop, take a breath, and look right at your heart. Look down at your heart, and then just ask yourself, how do I feel about this? And don't look to your head for the answer. It's not an intellectual answer. It's an emotional one. And here's the thing. Feelings don't make sense, but they're unarguable.
Because they're there. Yeah.
But we try and justify why it's there. It doesn't matter why it's there. It's there.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was scared of the dark. Didn't make any sense. Nobody else in my family was scared of the dark, but I was terrified of the dark. I'm not anymore. Why? It doesn't matter. The fact is, then I was. Now I'm not. I interact with the dark in different ways. We don't have to worry about the why part. That's a place to get lost forever. But just go, oh, how do I feel? Now, here's the thing that really challenges almost everybody. This is why we don't move forward into our yes. And I'm sure you've heard this countless times, Junie. Well, I want to be sure it's going to work. I want to be confident this is going to be a good choice. Here's the thing. Confidence is about the known. You cannot have confidence about something you haven't done yet. It's impossible. Now you can say, well, it worked for my friends, so well, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
So it's not confidence. If you're waiting for confidence, you're checkmate. You're done. You will never move, because you cannot access confidence prior to the experience. Now, it's just like if you went to a restaurant, right? You can't walk in the door to a brand new restaurant you've never been in and be confident you're going to have good food. But what made you walk in the door? Courage. You were willing to give it a shot.
Yep.
And then stay tuned into what works for you. You go to restaurants, you don't have a problem going to a restaurant and it doesn't work out. You say, yeah, that was not my kind of food. Okay. Or this is fantastic. Or maybe I'll try a different dish next time. But we don't go, I had a bad meal, I'm never eating again. That's what we do in the dating world. I had a bad experience, I'm not doing it ever again. Well, let's see, your sample group is 1 or 10, even 100 out of 4 billion. It's not a viable sample. And because chances are you were doing the same thing over and over again, which means you were basically dating the same guy with a different face
Yep.
over and over and over again. So your sample group's even smaller than you think it is.
Yeah.
Because that was familiar. Here's the thing, our brain, our reptilian brain, which operates our actions about 85 to 90% of the time, its sole job is survival.
Yeah.
Now, what I want to be clear about is what survival means. There's only one thing that it means. You're not dead. That's it. It literally, this is why people will stay in abusive relationships and get beat to within an inch of their life, but they didn't die. So their brain goes, but you can survive this. We know that, that's our job, stay here. It's familiar.
Yep.
So our brain interprets it as safe. Now, the other 10 to 15% of the time, you can access your prefrontal cortex, which is where you expand, where you have ideas and grow and try new things. But the default is to be in survival mind. So your job is to go, I have to actively engage that.
Yep.
I have to give myself permission to go, what if I did try something different? Because I'm not interested in just living. I want to thrive is the most common phrase nowadays. You can't thrive from survival. It's impossible.
Exactly.
You have to actually go, I'm going to have the courage to do something new. Because every single time you try something new, your brain will fight you. Its job is to fight that because it doesn't know you can survive it. And it can be things you're like, I'm not talking about physical survival, but it does because it doesn't know.
Yeah. I can't discern.
It's
Yeah.
instinctive. So we have to get out of that space and make those choices. And that takes courage. There's no confidence that's going to do it for you because confidence isn't available in that place.
Ooh, wow. So good. And so we need to have a solid yes to looking to our hearts, a solid yes to saying, I know that I'm working against this 85 to 90% of this brain that's trying to keep me in this familiar zone so nothing bad happens. This consciousness, this choice and that takes courage.
Yep.
You know, the women that I work with and the women that are listening, you know, it takes courage to say, this isn't working. And I'm comparing myself to other people, like you were talking about, oh, I went on all these dates and it's not working. And then we go, but she did this and this, she told me about this app and, oh, she lost that weight. And, you know, it must be me. It's again, take the courage to say what's going on inside of me and to be able to face it. That's huge. And what I'm also hearing is slowing it down to go within, to really listen to our hearts. Because a lot of times, most of the time, we don't. we're just acting and going through the motions.
Yeah. And it's programming, right? Because I mean, the feminine is very emotive, very connected to its emotions, and yet it's been dismissed. Oh, you're too sensitive, you're too emotional, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially in the business world, right? There's no space for emotions. If it doesn't pencil, don't do it. I heard a comment from Sir Richard Branson, and he said, every decision I've ever made in my life, we did, you know, our due diligence and did our studies and so on, and I would review those. But ultimately, my decision came down to my gut every time. Even when it didn't pencil and everybody's like, we can't do that. There's no way, Richard. And he's like, we're doing it. Because he could feel that it needed to happen.
Yeah.
And he goes, some of them worked, some of them didn't. But here's the thing. Not everything's going to grow, but you plant.
Right.
But that doesn't mean you stop planting. That means you plant more because you know some of them aren't going to come up. That's okay. The biggest thing is we've got to give ourselves permission to do this because most of us are waiting for somebody else to give us permission.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the people are on this show right now watching because they want permission from you or me. Oh, they're an expert. I need their permission. The divine is way more of an expert than anybody in a human form. So let it guide you.
Yeah. And that's where you started. Yep.
When you don't understand where it's going, that's okay. All I need to know is right here, this is my next step.
Exactly. Exactly. Love it. So good. So wise. And you have an awesome, awesome gift to give to this soul sister to take what we're talking about to the next level. Would you like to share
I
what that is?
would. Thank you.
Good. That's saying you just said yes. That's great. And I'm saying yes to share. So go for it.
Yeah. So what I put together for you is the first 2 chapters of the book for free. So it literally takes you through what the genesis is, where this came from, and what the payoffs are. Like, who benefits from you following your yes? Because one of the perceptions we have is that it's selfish.
Yes.
This is self-indulgent. This is narcissistic. Everybody will think I'm just self-centered. Nope. When you follow your yes, remember, why are you doing it? To be the best version of you in the moment. Well, that's the greatest gift you can ever give anyone.
Yeah.
It's not selfish. Selfish is not telling them, not being what you need to be so you can be your best. We've been trained to think that sacrifice is a gift. It's horrible. You don't win and the other person gets a lesser version of you because your tank's half empty. You can't operate. I mean, a perfect example is sleep. They say the average woman in America sleeps maybe 4 or 5 hours a night, either because they're stressing out about things or they just think they have so much to do, because your list never ends.
No, there's
Guys
always
do.
the list.
Guys' lists end because they let it be complete, but you've got 27 things going on at the same time, so they're all at different stages.
Yeah.
Where guys are doing one thing, then they're done. And they're like, oh, it's time to go to bed. I'll start the next one tomorrow. We have a different way we operate. It's just how we're wired.
Yeah.
So the feminine has to give yourself permission to go, oh, I got to take care of me. I got to fill my tank so I can actually be the best mom, the best partner, the best colleague, the best employee, whatever that happens to be.
Yeah.
And it's just, there's no space for it because we're waiting for somebody else to tell us it's okay. But how are they going to tell you it's okay? They don't know you're lacking because you're putting on such a good facade.
Yep. Yeah. And there's a high price you pay when you do that.
Yeah.
So much wisdom. Oh my God. So much, so many golden nuggets here. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this. It's just, yeah, spot on. And soul sister, if you're wanting an extraordinary second half of life, finding your yes, listening to your heart, connecting to the divine, fill in the blank of what you want to call it, whatever it is, it's really about getting out of your head and really being you, because there ain't nobody else that can be you.
Yep.
Yeah, so good. So thank you for your time. So great. For those of you that are listening or watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like the channel, put comments. We read them, write a review, but more importantly, listen, take some notes, and activate this, because your yes really is going to guide you to the next most beautiful moment in your life. And there's nothing better than being aligned with who you are. So yes to that. All right. Mwah.